Okay, testing 1 2 3 4. If anybody is watching this, it'd be really helpful to know if our microphone's turned on. So if somebody's able to hear us, let us know. Assuming there's anybody watching, to be honest. Right then, so, hey, fantastic. Thank you. Somebody can hear us. We'll get going in 10 minutes or so, but yeah, there's going to be about apparently a couple of minute lag between us reading a comment or well, the liveness and the YouTube feed. Anyway. So yeah, 7 more minutes. We'll just get ourselves ready and we'll go at about 9 o'clock. So yeah. Okay, there's a couple of comments saying that things are a little bit too quiet. Yes. Maybe we'll just have to speak up. Might be one thing. There's no level on the mic here, is it? No. But yeah, I'm afraid you might have to turn your volume up, and we'll, even though we're in the middle of well, it's kind of residential, isn't it?
Kind of.
Yeah, so maybe as it gets later, it might be preferred from the neighbours if we didn't shout too loudly.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll answer the questions as we go. One thing we haven't brought with us, we'll talk about this more. We haven't brought an infrared filter. So I'm pretty pleased that the colours are coming out as well as they are, because yeah, normally if we were going to try and go for good star colours, we'd put an infrared filter on the colour camera. So they do look, yeah, the colours do look quite nice, and now there's no light pollution filter. Where we are at the moment, there's not a huge amount of light pollution. If we go near the horizon, especially towards the south, there will be a bit more. So are you going to move that chair up, or what should we do there?
The what?
Are you going to move that chair up on this side, and where's the controller for the
mount?
Is that within?
No. We have to.
So you're going to have to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Get this to come into the mount for whatever reason.
I think I've just done that wrong. Oh, let's just leave it.
Anyway, this is not really useful. Very well.
Okay, so yeah, so we got this on Fably, so you can read. Don't know if you can read it or not. That's that one.
Yeah. That looks bad.
You want it less bright.
Slightly less.
Because there's windows. I don't know if I can.
Yeah. That's alright.
Okay. Yep. Right, we should do a countdown, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it's about time.
No,
Give or take.
if we're going to do it, we'll do it for us 15 seconds. If it's worth doing. And we're live.
And we are live and kicking.
Okay, thank you. Welcome for anybody who's joined us. Hopefully there is somebody out there, and we'll work out how to see if there is at some point. I'm Stephen Chambers. I'm joined here with Tripa.
Tripa here.
So, I don't know if anybody knows who doesn't know who we are, or doesn't know who we are. We effectively, between us, we look after Atik cameras, so we manage Atik. Roy's more on the production manufacturing side, and I do more of the R&D, and well, at least manage the R&D nowadays. So where we are, we're in Lisbon, or just north of Lisbon. We're actually at Roy's house and Roy's back garden. And what we've set up tonight is we have a telescope. It's the Televue NP101.
And one, yes.
It's a 4-inch refractor basically. It's a little HEQ5 mount, and what we're really looking at here is the Horizon camera. The Horizon is the CMOS camera that we've just started selling. Yeah, it's got the Panasonic. I'm sorry, Bob. Saying low, so we'll have to shout. I think it's the only way. Yes, so we basically got the Horizon camera there, and it's got the Panasonic sensor on it. Yep. And one of the features of the Horizon camera is that we read out the images very quickly, which is just the sort of thing that's needed for video astronomy. And Chris Golden has put a move the mic close. We are actually moving the mic closer. But one thing, I don't think there's any way of actually increasing the volume of this mic. I mean, what we could... I've just broken something, haven't I? What we could try and do is go back to... What we broken?
Nothing.
Okay. What we could do is just go back to the computer mic, because the wind's dropped off a fair bit. So Let's just try that for 1 second and see if we can do that. No, we can't because the mic's in use, I think. Is it? Okay then, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Somebody who's ever there, just say if that's better or worse. If it's worse, we'll change back again, and I guess the mic's now somewhere embedded in a laptop in front of us.
I can hear you fine.
Hey, I don't know if that came through, old or a new mic, but anyway, let's persevere onwards. It's the Horizon camera is what we're looking at, and say it's particularly suited for this kind of video astronomy, and we've put a lot of effort, especially Chris Golden's put a lot of effort into the software and making the software responsive enough with these very large 16 megapixel images. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. Fantastic, thanks for letting us know you can hear us, which is a relief. Okay, run. So what we've done is we've left this camera just basically running on M42 for probably the best part of 2 hours now. So in some ways this is the best image you're going to see all night. But what we can do is just kind of show some of the features. A lot of people I'm sure will be familiar with the Infinity software, but it allows us, you know, we can do things like do auto range, and there's a number of selections we can get to just kind of display automatically what the images will look like. And what we can also do is go down to these histogram sliders, and we can then select things like the black level ourselves. And quite a lot of the fun is to be had just tinkering around with some of these. We kind of use them in real time to kind of display different parts of the image. We're binning 2x2, which means we, rather than 16 megapixel image, we've only got a 4 megapixel image. But then we haven't got a 4 megapixel screen anyway here anyway, so we can still zoom in and there'll be more detail to be had. Just by zooming in. Right then. And this is the running man, isn't it?
Running Man Nebula, yeah.
Is I hesitate to say, is that what you call the head of the running man?
Yeah. maybe.
Is that his arms?
Yeah, it is.
Is it? Okay, yeah, I hesitate. I don't know if I'm interpreting that right. Or if it's meant something completely different. Okay, so what I thought we'd just start off with, because we've got a bright object the telescope's aimed at, is just to run through some of the settings we've got of this before we start to look at some of the other objects that we could love to take a look at. So what I'm going to do is say goodbye to this image. Oh, is there anything else we've got to show on before we
go on. Just
okay then. So on this
stack,
yeah,
stack.
This is something I guess if people have used this software, it's quite hard to actually press the reset stack button after you've been stacking for 2 hours. But there we go, we've done it. So the first one comes in, well, it should be a single image now from what this really looks like. And to be honest, the sky's darkened down a lot from the first image that we took with this, so it'll be interesting to see what it is.
Yep.
Okay, so first thing probably do is to get into auto range again, just so we can see roughly what it is. So that's what the individual images were looking like that were coming from the camera.
Yep, 20 seconds.
Yep. What I might do here is just stop this a second. So when we're on video mode, obviously we're stacking automatically, but if we come into this eyeball mode, it's going to do the same thing, but it's not going to stack these images. So just temporarily we're going to have a look at some settings and we'll see what the difference is with this camera, looking at the different settings. So I think the first thing I'd like to just see is, have we got any more resolution available to us if we didn't go this 2x2 binning? And we'll, in a minute I'll try and describe what the 2x2 binning does, but let's first of all just see if we do a single image what it's going to look like without the 2x2. We're probably going to need to auto range this when it comes in another few seconds. I think people are still struggling a bit with the sound that we've got on this. Apart from shouting, I'm not really sure what more we can do with this at the moment.
Yeah. It's not...
We're not on that microphone anymore, I don't think.
Not. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to us that we're really loud, but then we are in the middle of a very quiet area. Okay, so this has now done a single image. I should have just stopped this a while back and just checked what happens if we've seen any increase in resolution. Maybe, I mean, the actual individual stars do look as though we have the resolution to support.
Yeah.
One by one binning. So maybe at some points we'll take a look at this if we look at some of the brighter objects. Okay, so what I just want to flick through here was some of the other controls we've got. So we just stopped that a moment. Taking images. We stopped. Yep, we stopped now. Okay, so one thing I want to do is on the Atik Horizon itself, we have these different levels of gain. So we try a low gain. What we should be able to see is more colour within the brighter stars, but we may see less detail in the fainter regions. That's the theory. Let's see how that works out. So we do get it, take an image again. So yeah, so we're now on to low gain setting. So we might expect, it's got more dynamic range, but we might expect to have more noise in the lower parts of the image. Okay, so it's a subtle difference. To be honest, I think a lot of these things are going to look a bit subtle.
Yes, obviously, yeah.
It should be telling us that we've got more colour in the brighter stars if we were interested in that. So we have a redder star there and something distinctly bluish there. Let's stop that again and then switch over to this high gain setting. But just quickly hit auto range again. Take another image. So this time we're in high gain. High gain, really, I mean, it's a very low read noise. We're down to around 1 electron read noise with this. But what we have is a very, very small full well depth. So we're not expecting a lot of detail in the brighter stars, or a lot of colour in the brighter stars. So this is the single image. So this is interesting. This is giving us basically full range now. So before we had dynamic range where if we looked at the maximum pixel value, we really didn't see any of the nebula at all at that point. We could just see detail in the colour and detail in the stars. Whereas I think at this point we are losing a lot of the brighter star colour.
Yes.
But what we do get, this should be a lower, we should be able to see the fainter parts of the image more clearly. So let's just go back and we'll do one more time. So we'll go back from, this is the high gain setting. We'll just stop that a second. Where's my mouse? That's mouse. Just do a low gain setting one more time. And we see, so on this one, for one image, this is the white level, so it's right up at 59,000. So we'll do one more image. Yep, Chris, high gain, lowest read noise, but yeah, absolutely less dynamic range. So this is what we're going to see now, hopefully, or we're going to stick it back down to low gain, which should be a greater dynamic range. Again now, so we've got the white level set at 65,000. We're seeing none of the nebula really. So we just put the black level down, and we've got all this extra dynamic range to make use of. And the downside is obviously that we've got probably 3 or 4 times more read noise, so the fainter parts of the image will be more noisy in this mode. But in many ways, that's a more pleasing image because we've got
It
so
is.
much dynamic range within M42 anyway.
Absolutely.
Dave, you'd like a bit more information on the setup. I'm sorry you can't hear anything. Would like to know light pollution at your sites and if a filter or reducer. Okay. We will certainly post, I think we've posted a fair bit of information on what we're planning on using. So what we have, Rory, do you want to
Yes. Yeah, I will go through it.
save my voice for a minute?
Yes, no problem. Basically, what we have over here today is a Televue NP101 refractor, 0 filters. So we are not filtering at all, not even an infrared block filter we have over here tonight. And no focal reducers, so it's natively at f5.4. And the mount is an HEQ5, a Skywatcher HEQ5, quite old mount, by the way. And obviously the Horizon color. So that's basically the equipment we have here.
Yeah, and in terms of this site, how many miles north of Lisbon are we?
We are approximately in a straight line 30 odd kilometers from Lisbon. 30 kilometers from Lisbon, give or take.
And in English, that would be...
I don't know, 40 miles, 45, 40. No,
40,
the other
20,
way around.
20
It's
miles.
20 miles. Yes, it's the way around.
Yeah, about 20 miles.
20 miles north of Lisbon, give or take.
We can certainly see Lisbon glowing on the kind of southern horizon.
Yeah.
But where we are at the moment, I mean, it does look pretty dark to me. And there's the skies. One of the worries we've got is it's going to go hazy or foggy soon because it's really damp and dewy. The winds just died down recently.
Yep.
At the moment, it doesn't seem to be. But
No, it's okay.
yeah, but yeah, as we go, it's exactly the kind of conditions that we may find. We'll start to develop some fog in an hour or so's time.
Yep.
But fingers crossed. As at the moment, we're in a really good way. So yeah. Right then, what should we need to? Oh yeah, I was gonna. Let's find another object, and we'll talk about binning when we find something else to look at.
Yep.
So what we were going to have a look at, I think the flame and Horsehead would be really good.
Yes. And you see.
Yes. No, we probably need to look at what we're going to stick into the HEQ5 to come up with the Horsehead Nebula. If anybody knows, okay, so I see
434.
434.
You need to stop the image.
Well, beans, we're on eyeball mode. Yeah, we're good because we're not stacking at the moment in eyeball mode. Yeah, OSC, one shot color, and it just means that it's like a standard camera in many ways. It takes color images. The way it does that is that there's individual red, green, blue filters actually on the sensor surface in what's in a pattern called a Bayer matrix. For anybody who cares, that's 2 greens to 1 red and 1 blue. So you get twice the number of greens. Right then, so we've moved now. So I don't know.
The Horsehead at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going to put this on. Okay, let's just wait and see how this goes. Okay, well, the Horsehead isn't the brightest object, but are we certain we're anywhere near there? Maybe we better just let the next one happen. Now the mount has been behaving really well.
I hope it's IC434 or.
Okay, don't you just hate this? Have we got the right? Yes,
Yes.
so IC434 is where we should be, and to be honest, that is a bright star, but we are certainly not in the right area for that one. Oh, this is a pity. Right, do you just quickly send this back? Let's just do some shorter exposures. Just send it back to M42 quickly, and then just to make sure that we, after doing our 3-star alignment, I thought this was going to be good. Oh, you are kidding me. This is
no.
We have so what happened there? There.
Oh, crap.
Okay, 20 seconds to come down to. Okay, Rudy, do you want to put it back to M42 and let's just hope that this is going to go well. Right then, reading Steve, some delicious is USB 3 recommended. It really is recommended in terms of using this for video astronomy. It's, if we were using this for deep sky, you know, traditional CCD imaging, there's not a lot of extra point from using USB 3, but I was proud that you can use USB 2 for like traditional astrophotography, but for video astronomy, yes, is a bit of an advantage. And yes, we've got memory on the camera itself, and yeah, we don't get amp glow regardless if we're using USB 2 or if we're using USB 3. So yeah, there's a memory buffer. It's actually capable of holding about half a dozen images. But yeah, in this case, basically we're just buffering once.
Can you try again on the Horsehead, please?
Oh, so we're going to Horsehead again?
Yeah,
right. Okay.
Try it out.
Yeah, we've got 10 seconds, so I can see we're slewing at the moment. Okay, so we've got the Flame Nebula. Thank goodness. Goodness, I don't know what happened there. Something glitches, and we went wrong on many different levels there. Okay, so we've got the Flame. Is the Horsehead going to appear over there, do you think?
Yep. It might be not 100% central.
So this is the bottom thing of the Horsehead, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this time I'm going to stop taking images. I'm going to change to go medium. It may be that we have to buffer some of this, so I'm concerned if we were changing some of these, whether or not we've caused an issue with it. Okay, so we're on 20-second exposures, spinning to on medium. I'll flick the auto range on. Ah, yeah, no, this is something. It's gone black and white here. We'll talk about this in a minute, because in advanced settings we can now go to colour into the bin mode, and that will make a difference, and I'll mention that in a minute. Okay, we're medium. Well, auto range. Okay, we're not stacking at the moment, so let's go into stacking mode. Okay. One thing, let's just try hitting record, if it'll allow us to do this. Come on. No, this is an EPC. We've not really tried this before, and that's a bastard. Oh, it's we're there. It didn't like us selecting a directory. What is going on with this computer? It may be that the video recording is taking too much of the bandwidth for what it's trying to do. No, we're on video mode. Right, let's just go with this and see what happens. While we're going, what I'll do, is 20 seconds too low for the target? We'll see. I think you may be right. 20 seconds is going to be too low. Now, what I did say is that we'd talk a bit about binning and colour cameras. Go on, Rory, give me a rest for a second. Do you explain binning and monochrome cameras?
So
monochrome CCDs.
Binning in monochrome CCDs is basically the combination of whatever number of pixels in X and Y direction. So you get the signal of each individual pixel, and you then combine them to have higher signal value. This can be 2x2, 4x4, 6x6, whatever number. For astronomy, typically it's never used above 2x2 for normal images, or if you want to just find an object, sometimes 4x4 or even 8x8 can be extremely useful because it allows you to see something that is invisible in when you are searching for an object. That's it. In CMOS cameras is slightly different, obviously.
Yeah.
Still will be.
I think the key thing for me is we were talking about the fact this is a colour camera, and it's a colour camera because it's got colour filters on the individual pixels. And it's really saying that the CCDs will combine those pixels on the sensor itself.
Yeah.
And in doing so, basically you mix two green, a red and a blue together. And after you've done that, after you've mixed them on the chip itself, it's not possible to extract the colour data anymore. So what we had just a second ago was, basically a simulation of what would happen with a colour CCD, that when you bin it, you lose the colour and you end up getting a black and white image. Now, CMOS cameras, which the Horizon is a CMOS camera, then what we're getting there is, it's not possible to combine those pixels on the chip. But what we can do is we can simulate it by combining the pixels off the chip and by mathematically adding them together. If we do it on the chip as a CCD, basically we have roughly 4 times the signal to noise on doing a 2x2 bin. In CMOS land, we actually only have a doubling of the signal to noise ratio. I won't go into it, but it's mathematically it's about half as good as binning on a CCD. But the benefit is we can actually we can retrieve the colour data from it, so that is a benefit on the CMOS. And the way we do it is the same as we would normally debayer a colour or one-shot colour image. You end up with then 3 colour planes, red, green and blue, all at the same resolution as the original image. We then bin those 3 colour planes 2x2, and in doing that then we increase the signal to noise. We increase the signal to noise by 2 times. So that's the advantage of binning, and it's something we've introduced into the software quite recently to allow us to keep the colour on this binning. So we're getting suggested that we try some longer exposures here, aren't we?
I must tell you, inform everybody that we are not guiding. I mean, we are not auto guiding at all. We can try, obviously, going to I don't know, 40 or 60 seconds, but it's not guaranteed that we will get round stars. So
should we just give it a go and see what happens?
Why not?
Should we put it up to 60 seconds and what could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Let's just list the things that can go wrong. Okay, let's start taking some images again. Now this should reset the stack automatically, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that should correct.
We should mention some other things about the site that we are at as well at the moment. So last time we did a broadcast from this garden, indeed. It was the middle of summer.
Yes.
And it was very, very warm indeed. And after doing so much imaging and observing from England, I was shocked how pleasant it was.
Exactly.
How would we describe the temperature at the moment?
It's not too low, but the problem is the humidity.
It's not too low.
This is a place where I have my personal observatory, and it can get really cold in some nights. Right now the problem is humidity, because it gets into your bones quite fast. As we said before, this is very close to well, close-ish to Lisbon. It's about 20 odd miles, or about 40 kilometers, 30 to 40 kilometers. Light pollution towards east, that's what where we are at the moment, is very low, or relatively low. Towards south is way worse, because we still get the dome from Lisbon. I mean, it's like Steve was saying before, the biggest issue with this site is fog that tends to appear out of nowhere. So if we are lucky tonight, we might be able to do this until the end without issue. Let's hope we are.
Yeah, we've got some more comments. Thanks ever so much for people who are commenting in. It's really helpful to kind of gives us something to talk about. So yes, we are cooling the sensor. So I just quickly checked what we're doing. Actually, it's set to -10. I've just disturbed it, so it's now cooling back down to -10 again. We don't do dark frames in the Infinity software, so this is again something that myself and much more Chris Golden's work on this one is. We've done some techniques to identify where the hot pixels are on the image, and it goes in and fixes those hot pixels.
Yep.
So we don't need to take a dark frame with them. And cooling on the day, we're very easily finding ourselves down at -10 degrees. So I'm sure we could go a lot lower. In these 1 minute exposures, there's not really any benefit from going down to -20, -30 degrees
at all.
So,
Thermal noise will be always way lower.
So no, we're not subtracting dark frames. We have, at some point, we may want to think about putting some flat field corrections into the Horizon software, or the Infinity software, we're going to have to call it. In this case, the NP101 is doing a great job of giving us a nice flat field over this relatively large sensor.
Yes.
I know some people like to use it with hyperstar systems.
Yes.
And yeah,
which have their own issues regarding vignetting, and yes, that is in as a plan for a future release.
Yeah. Is this camera going to replace the Infinity range, and can it be used for long exposure as well? So first off, yes, it absolutely can. So it's more able to be used as a traditional astrophotography camera than the Infinity camera. So yes. The Horizon we really designed to be much more of a traditional camera, and it's got a CMOS sensor, but it was the first time that we really felt that we could introduce a CMOS sensor into our line of cameras, which are traditionally they're not. Most of the Atik cameras are not really meant to be used for video astronomy. They're much more the traditional kinds of astrophotography, and the Horizon really fits in with that range of cameras. But because it's such fast readout, it then has this cross purpose of being able to use for
video astronomy,
video astronomy as well. But no, we're not planning to replace the Infinity, and I think the Infinity has got a price slightly below the Horizon, and in many ways it's because it's lower resolution and it matches the resolution of a screen better. In many ways I feel it's a better camera to be used for video astronomy.
Yes.
Software certainly finds it easier to keep up with it, and
it's the shape is also different, which helps immensely if you are working with alt-azimuth telescopes for video astronomy, which with the Horizon gets a little bit difficult because of the longer shape. It's not impossible, obviously, but it gets a bit more difficult, and it's a lighter weight, and it has its own advantages over the Horizon, for sure.
How much does it cost? Somebody's asking.
In which,
it's horrible because we've got all the different currencies. It's about £1,500.
Yes,
maybe, is it a bit
in
more
pounds is about £1,500, give or
we
take.
really ought to know better than
In
this.
euros is about 1,800, and in US dollars, if you give me a second.
Just plugging in. Thanks ever so much about the comments on the Infinity. We had an absolute blast making that camera, so we really enjoyed it, and it's
Yes.
after being out of video astronomy for a long time, because where we started this stuff was kind of like with the video cameras and that, and it kind of just brought back all that fun back into kind of the imaging of what we're doing, and the social aspect as well. In fact, this is quite an interesting object, because this is the object that got me into video astronomy. And shall I tell a story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Correct. Says Rory with no particular enthusiasm. So the story goes that this is back maybe 15 years ago when I was playing around with the video cameras. We're at Norwich Astronomical Society, so it's my local astronomical society, and we had a public open day. And inside the dome we had, it's either a 12-inch or a 14-inch SET Meade, and it was aimed at the flame and the Horsehead. I guess it's more the flame that people were being asked to take a look at. And they were coming out, and basically, because it was a member of the public, people who weren't used to using averted vision, and they could probably see a bright star, but really weren't very convinced at what else was there.
Yeah.
And then outside of the dome, as people were coming out, I'd set up a little rickety picnic table, and I had one of the Meade ETX70 telescopes, so this little plastic thing whirring wheels and things, and I had one of these long exposure modified Philips webcams that we had at the time, and on that it was displayed both the flame and the Horsehead, and people were then coming out of not really knowing what they were looking at down this large but rather impressive SET telescope. Yeah. And then just being able to have a quick look at a laptop screen and say, oh, that's what it was. And I think at the time people couldn't quite believe that they were looking, the image was coming out of this ETX70. So in many ways that's where my interest in video astronomy started off at. It looks like we just had something go through the screen there. If there's a satellite trail or something that just went,
airplane or something that just passed by.
Yeah, it might be an airplane because it's bright in places and dark in others.
Well, just an update for the US friends over there. The Atik Horizon costs
$13 and $86 is what we've got from John Clark. Are you going to dispute that?
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, it's difficult to know all the different prices in the different.
But no, it's on the OPT website apparently.
Yeah, and if you in euros, it's 13.99 or thereabouts. So it's that's the color version. Obviously, that's the one that we are using here tonight.
Yeah, and Chris does the same kind of thing. It's a lot of fun, I think, just kind of using absurdly small telescopes and then showing people what they can do.
It is, and it's one of the initial reasons also why the Infinity camera appeared on Infinity software was that we got a lot of questions, especially at trade shows, of customers or potential customers wanting to do astrophotography with their Schmidt-Cassegrains, alt-azimuth Schmidt-Cassegrains like LX200s, Nexstars, and so on, or if they had low cost, low quality telescope mounts that could not really track very well. And the Infinity software actually is able to deal with all that with relatively ease. Our initial broadcast that we did about 2 years ago, give or take, was done on the Nexstar 6 in alt-azimuth mode, and it obviously, you can, due to field rotation, you cannot do 60-second exposures, but if you limit yourself to relatively short exposures like 10, 15, 20 seconds, The software itself can actually get rid of field rotation, which then allows you to actually have fantastic images on screen with relatively simple hardware. As one of our customers has a 80mm refractor. I can't remember his name, to be honest. Sorry if you are watching. Sorry about that. That gentleman had a 80mm refractor on a very small Nexstar mount, and he was saying wonders about the ability of doing that job on an alt-azimuth mount.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's good. One thing we're getting with the delay with kind of coming over to YouTube and then reading comments back on YouTube is, yeah, there's a bit of a delay, but there's an interesting comment on the satellite trail, and no, I didn't go and reject that last one with the satellite trail on. And it's almost, when we see these as live view imaging,
yes,
I kind of like to see those bits and pieces, because yeah, if we were doing astrophotography, that frame is never going to be used, is it?
No, no. But as a matter of fact, with the software, assuming that we are not recording at the moment, but assuming
I think
that
we are actually. The red thing.
Oh, it is. Oh, sorry, my bad. With the screen angle, I didn't notice. But since we are recording at the moment, we can reject that image later. If we want to post-process all the individual frames, we can just go there and reject that frame later on. I mean, on screen it will look like that, but later on it can be rejected if you want to do some post-processing.
What I'm seeing that I really quite like in this image, we'll stop it in a minute, but it actually gets a really nice colour in the flame here.
Yes, very, very nice actually.
I've taken this a number of times with it's like the traditional red, green, blue filters, and yeah, it's kind of. I struggle getting a decent colour in the flame, and this is probably as good as I've ever seen it, which
yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah,
good detail. There is a lot of the
it's not as
Nebula.
Obviously it's not as deeper as I've ever gone in terms of looking at the Horsehead, but the actual colour rendition of it is not bad at all.
No.
And this is this is one of the benefits also we've got with the very large chip of the Horizon. As I say, we're bin 2x2, so we've already given away four times the resolution here than what we've got. But
yep.
Still, there's lots of we can do to kind of zoom in on pieces.
Yes, that's not a bad image by all means. In terms of there's still we are talking about 13 stacks of 60 seconds. So yeah, but it's not.
Also, what we've got here that this does show is that the reflections are relatively well controlled, and
exactly.
we know that the Panasonic sensor, there is no anti-reflection coating on the cover glass of that sensor.
Exactly.
What we do, and it's kind of we've received both praise and criticism for doing it, but we've placed the optical window relatively kind of a normal distance for us away from the top of that sensor.
Exactly.
And it does a number of things, so it kind of really helps us avoid any risk of getting any condensation on that sensor, on the optical window itself. But also by moving those two reflective elements just a bit further away, the intensity of those reflections is disappearing, like the square of the distance or whatever. So it's the closer you get it, the more intense, and the further away you bring it, the more diffuse and less intrusive those reflections become.
And Alnitak is not an easy target by all means.
No, absolutely. No, we've picked. We might go over to Pleiades later, which is even more challenging.
Exactly.
But yeah, in terms of dynamic range, we've got a very, very bright thing and a very, very faint thing together. Let's just read a couple more of the questions that are coming in. Another question: why have you gone with the yellow colour on the Horizon Cat? Okay. We really need. It was Joe and Travis, two of our new recruits to the company.
Yes, it's
took us in a slightly new direction, and it was kind of differentiates. This is the first CMOS camera that we'd done. I think it was kind of to ring the changes a little bit, and kind of it's to introduce a new and interesting colour to the range.
Yeah, I think that's the one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, is to separate the CCD line from the CMOS line. I'm not saying that every CMOS camera that we will be making will be orange. That's not the case, but at this point it made sense. Just
they all are at the moment, aren't they?
They all are, yeah. But at this moment, it made sense to go and do something slightly different. And if you look closely, there will be orange on the Atik logo anyway. So there you go.
There is. We have, yes. It's not an entirely new colour for us in any way at all. In any, it would. Shall we just quickly touch on why the cameras? No, maybe. Are we
red. Oh, the red.
Should we
why
mention
are they
why they're
red?
I can't. It's not really a bad reason for choosing red.
No, it's not. Well, at all. I mean,
a bit of a homage to somebody else who's in the business slightly before us.
Yes, correct. I can go through that if you want.
We could just have a quick moment of it.
Yeah, nostalgic moment.
We have another hour and a half to go.
Exactly.
We're gonna have to find something to talk about.
Exactly. So the red color of the cameras basically came. Our first camera was the Atik 16 and 16 HR back in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. And at the time we were selecting which color should we do the cameras. Shall we do them black like everybody else? Shall we do something different? And one thing that I really enjoyed in the hobby was a certain mount made by a certain company which actually makes excellent mounts, which is Software Bisque. So the Paramount was my dream mount at the time, and we decided to let's just make the cameras the same color as state-of-the-art piece of equipment. And that's it. Basically, yeah. That's what.
When we come to anodizing, there is a relatively small palette to choose between in terms of colours.
You can't have it.
No, so it's not a case of actually completely matching, but it was a case of that was the red available. But at the time, I was doing blue cameras, and
exactly, we still have one.
we still have one more blue camera. Let's just try. If we've seen enough of this a second, there's an interesting question on the binning. Now, we've introduced binning pretty recently to this software, this colour binning technique. And there's a question on, do we maintain the colour if we go for 4x4 binning? And to be honest, I don't know the answer to that one. There's no reason why it shouldn't go. So shall we just stop this and do a single image 4x4 binning?
Absolutely.
So let's stop taking images now. We're going to wipe up to, oh, there you go. Let's go mad. Let's do 8 binned image. And just see what happens. Start taking an image. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen.
Some of our customers amazingly tend to ask questions that were never asked before. So what happens if you bin 8x8 on this new software? Apparently nobody ever tested that.
Well,
so
I'm sure it's been tested. I'm sure somebody.
We are breaking new ground.
I'm sure Chris is at home now thinking, what are they doing?
What are they doing exactly? I should be there.
Yeah. So this is Chris Golden, the author of this software, or at least the vast majority of the code in this software.
So we'll find in a few seconds.
Lower exposure, so yeah, we could well try low, but I was just going to try 60 seconds just to see what the combination is. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I could try and do the maths in my head how much more sensitive this is by the time we're binning 8, but it's now too cold and my brain's frozen. Oh, look, that's bright, isn't it?
That is bright.
So basically, I think we've lost everything now. Has we got anything left? No, the whole thing is gone. It may be that's
too sensitive.
Possibly. I'm kind of surprised. Let's just come down a bit and just see what this is actually doing. Let's do 5, just in order to see what there is there. Let's take it into eyeball mode. Binning 2. Yeah, so yeah, the thing is we've got different settings when we swap between this two. And we've got binning 4 now, and we're going to just do a 10-second, whatever. We'll just get on and do it. So 10 seconds left to 4x4 binning. Is it going to be colour or is it going to be monochrome is the question.
There you go.
Okay, so yeah, so we are maintaining the colour at 4, and just see if we got to 8. Let's stop that and start another one. 8 times binning. What we should find is the stars are going to look increasingly blocky. One thing that we do notice, no, somebody's asking.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's not what I was expecting to see at all. So maybe that's what happened before. Maybe we need to make sure this binning works when we get up to those higher numbers. So this software is relatively new, and it's looking as though we've taken it beyond its comfort zone at that point.
Exactly.
It's certainly not right anyway. So Chris, when you're in tomorrow morning, there is something to look at our high binning levels.
Exactly.
We shouldn't sing his prizes too highly at this point. But one thing I would just point out on here is these kind of horizontal lines we get, and that's very much something which we don't see so much of with the CCD cameras, and it's one of those things where the CMOS cameras really do enjoy being with more images in the stack, so shorter exposures, stacking more of them.
Yes.
And we lose those very rapidly. We should pick another object, really, shouldn't we? Because
absolutely. Let's have a look at what's next.
Well, can we? I've got my favourite Messier object just round the corner from this one.
Yeah, shoot.
You don't know what it is? Okay.
I have no idea.
You have no idea. I've gone. Well, maybe I've gone on about it enough in Norwich. M78.
M78. Oh, right.
So this is I don't know whether or not we're going to be. It's a relatively faint reflection nebula. I really like the colours in it, but I'm not sure whether or not we're going to be asking a bit too much of the camera at this point, but we'll find out. So it's relatively small aperture. So yeah, 4-inch aperture. Normally we'd go for something a bit bigger. It's interesting being a Messier object, really, because you think the Messier objects are all really quite bright and easy to take pictures of, but M78 is one that I think benefits taking some longer exposures.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you've Adam's come up with an interesting point here about this, adding the sum or the averaging. We're about to revamp again this binning mode, and we'll do something a little bit different. So I won't go into the maths, but we're going to change the way mathematically the binning works in order that we maintain the whole dynamic range that we've got available. So at the moment on binning we do run the risk of losing some of that dynamic range as the numbers go over 65,000. So we're going to adjust how that works, but yeah, keep looking at the download sites, because that will be up in the next week or two, I believe. Okay, so we can see we're roughly in the right area. Let's just stop that a second. If we go back to the video mode and we go up to, let's give it every chance of working before we give up and assume it's not going to work. Let's go up to this high gain setting. Right then. 60-second exposures, okay. High gain, binning 2x2. We'll see what happens.
Exactly.
Apart from perishingly cold, freezing to death, and what could go wrong? If my voice is going a bit warbly, it's because it's chuffing cold at it.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, so one of the things we could talk about, the fact that we're out here in the extreme cold at the moment, and how we can make this more remote. So one of the things we are looking at, now I've got to be careful what I say too much here, because we'll accidentally make announcements when we're not intending to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can imagine some of our The marketing people.
Exactly.
They're trying to pull the plug on this. What we are looking to do is to expand the Atik here. And yeah, and get it into more mobile devices. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Ah. Now these are all shot off to that side. And the red, that is weird, very strange. Let's just reset that again. Let's just get it to do one more, because there's no real reason for that to go on, I don't think. So yes, it's basically boosted the blue an awful lot, and I'm not sure why it's done that. We do have colour balance where we can drag things back again, but that's just so obviously not correct. What's the sky looking like? It's not gone foggy all of a sudden, is it?
It's good. No,
Yeah.
Still good.
Let's
Still
just,
have good sky.
let's just take yeah, there's no reason. Something went strange there. If it does, we'll come back down to medium gain again.
You might be slightly at the limit with the 60 seconds.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Yeah, that may well be what's happened here, that we've only got about 500 electron full well depth maximum.
Yes.
And 60 seconds, it might be a case of we have just, it's just
still
gone too much.
Let's just do 30 seconds or something.
Yeah, let's just okay, let's give that a go at just 10 seconds, just to see what an image does look like down at 10 seconds. I mean, these high gain settings, I've done some interesting narrowband imaging, and it's impressive, but the camera itself is a right handful to use, I think. So once you get it right, it's very powerful using the high gain settings, but with such a small dynamic range, it's a challenge. So at the moment, our average pixel value is about 16,000 for a 10-second exposure. Can we move these around? Right, I'm stuck on blue at the moment. We could talk about colour balance in a minute, but let's avoid that for a second, because I only did that accidentally. So M78 isn't the easiest object to go for. I think before I just give up and do something completely different, let's see what's how many stacks.
50 seconds.
Yeah. So we're finding at the moment that high gain is a bit of a handful. Should we try coming back to medium gain and just giving ourselves something like 30-second exposure and just seeing what happens? So I'm going to come back down here, medium gain, and increase the exposure duration to about 30. I mean, this would be a challenge. I really like this object, and I was taking some pictures of this about a week ago, again with the Horizon, but in much more of a traditional guided way, and I think the exposures I was doing there was 5 or 10 minutes, and we took a couple of hours of them, and even then it was only really just beginning to do itself justice.
Yes, it's a nice reflection nebula. Not the easiest one for sure.
Yeah.
You need to put auto range.
Auto range, just to get it back. I think I've accidentally moved the blue here.
You did.
So let's just put the blue back where it should be. So this is the colour balance actually, and there's a number of ways you can use colour balance, so it's a good time to talk about it. Let's see if we put it back to limits. If we look at the backgrounds, it's kind of what we want to see is a fairly neutral colour background, and we can see basically this histogram, all the colours are roughly aligned. If I unalign some of it, so we get the green there, we can change these offsets and stretches, but it's probably just as easy to grab hold of this and just move it. So if the green is completely out of kilter, we get the green histogram is well away from the blue and the red. It looks like that, and if we move it back in, it'll just overlays, and then we get the more except all kind of
Yes.
space is black. All is grey. Space is grey.
Space is grey.
Oh no, because I've got to get onto that. No, yeah, so this then does this histogram. Right, and what we could do next. We haven't really planned this, so if anybody's got some more interesting objects to go for, by all means, please do suggest them. Obviously, we're in the northern hemisphere, so nothing too far south. But I wonder if, just quickly before we do, should we have a quick look at the Rosette? That's not far from there, is it?
Rosette NGC, can you help me out with this one? My mind is rusty.
We just look up. So a bright no, that's not it.
No, the Rosette.
Is the Rosette in what constellation's the Rosette in?
I think it's Orion. It's
right then, how are we going to find this? Bear with us, we're just shown. Okay then, so it's in monocross and NGC 2239.
2239?
2239.
2239, okay.
Or 2237, I'm not sure which one. It's got more, wait, 2237, 2239, 39, let's say it's 39. Ah, CCD for instance 2244. That's interesting. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, so yes. So the suggestion after this is we'll go for a galaxy. So yeah. So and we've got John saying M45. And M45 is a bit of a challenge because we've got such bright stars there. We'll easily see the Pleiades. Seeing the nebulicity around the Pleiades, I don't know if we'll see that in a reasonable length of time or not, but we'll have a look at that in a bit. Okay, so we've got to reset the stack already. Let's reset and continue. So this is a big hydrogen alpha object. It's quite diffuse. I'm not sure. I mean, I hope we're going to see the central star cluster, because that'll be a bit of a disappointment if we don't.
Yeah, the star cluster we should see for sure.
Yep.
Assuming the mount is pointing in the right direction. And we should see a little bit of nebulosity.
We've got lots of people suggesting objects for us.
All right. Let's hope we have enough time.
And we have Chris Gull has just sent me a text message. No, let's...
Shut up, Steve.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah. Gives me. Right then, let's just...
There you go.
Okay, the color balance type is set to manual, so you need to set it back to auto after you do. Okay. Thanks, Chris. Chris has just mentioned that because we've been playing around with the color balance, this now has jumped to manual. So what's going to happen is that we will need to set this back to auto adjust in order for the software to make its corrections now, and it's basically undone all the damage that I had done to it before. So Chris, good to hear that you're listening in. Hope the football match went well. And yeah, that's
and
a good
we have
point.
a rose in screen.
Yeah, no, that's quite nice, really. Isn't it?
Yes.
I reckon if we spent some time on this, which we're probably not going to, because people want to see something more interesting, but that could actually get to the point of looking quite nice. Because this is an object that's, it's traditional deep sky astrophotography type stuff. This is, especially if we put a hydrogen alpha filter onto it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of these dark little bits around here that make it an interesting object. These new dark nebula.
Yeah.
Dark nebula. Is it dark nebula? Yes, kind of. The
Dust.
the dark, dusty bits around this star cluster. Okay, so we had some suggestions for different for different objects. Yeah, somebody's Stephen is suggesting 81 and 82. I think at Lisbon we're probably a bit too far south to make the best of that one.
They are okay-ish at the moment. We can actually do it. They are just over there.
That's gonna be
M51, no way. We can't do M51 because it's out of. It has a house in front of it. But 81 and 82 is a possibility.
And we also had a suggestion for pinwheel. Pinwheel, are we talking about M101?
Pinwheel 101, yes.
So several people are suggesting that we move over to Ursuline Major. It's really ironic. I've come all the way down to Lisbon, which is a lot further south, and with the anticipation of looking at some southern objects. And I'd been better off if I'd have stayed in England, to be honest with these ones. But let's give it a go, because it's what the people want.
Exactly, we are here to.
Well,
everybody is happy with the Rosette. I mean, this object would obviously gain a little bit, quite a little bit, if we increase the exposure to 60 seconds and let it flow for half an hour or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's tempting right now to go inside and put the kettle on and then come back in.
It's tempting.
But let's resist that temptation for a little longer. And yes, shall we try?
Okay, let's do that.
Try 81, 82?
81, 82, let's do that.
Right then, so let's again just stop taking images. Ooh. Yeah, so we can see there that we've got a bit of trailing at this point. So for 30-second images, whatever the reason is, that's kind of the limit to what this mount is doing where we are at the moment. So we're not auto-guiding anyway, so this is just running off an HEQ5. HEQ5s are probably one of the best the best valuable portable mount, I'd say. If that's a thing. Right.
Oh, we are there.
We're there. Okay, so let's start off. So we're going to do 30 seconds again. If these, I'm not sure how. Yeah, what's the image scale going to look like on this? Are they going to be?
Yeah,
It's a little small on here, or?
I would say that they will fit.
I'd be stunned if they didn't fit on this. I think they may be lost. But we'll see. Are we? Yes. Yeah, so, in a second, we'll have to reset the stack, and
yes,
to reset
yes,
the stack
yes.
because it's just going to get completely lost. Let's start off again completely afresh. Start taking images. We're on stacking mode. But I guess the benefit of being here rather than England is that England is currently under quite a lot of snow, so we
yes,
we
it's cold over here. Wait until we get back home.
Yeah. Well, let's see what we've got.
There you go.
Well, it's good news is we've found. I mean, the pointing on this is actually remarkable here.
I did send to M81.
Yeah. So after the first time, which I assume we typed the number in wrong rather than anything else.
It might have been. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. So obviously it's not. These are not very bright. So we don't want to go. That's way too much. I mean, even low is actually. You know, I would say that was lower than low. And we have. I mean, that's quite a lot of detail coming out in there.
Yes.
You start to see the spiral arms.
Yes. And the dust on the M82.
Yeah, that's nice, actually, isn't it? We're never going to. I like to see the little flames, the hydrogen alpha coming up.
Yes,
from 82.
but that's probably not for today.
No, for many reasons, including the fact we haven't got a hydrogen alpha filter.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, you could fool yourself into thinking there was something there, but I think that's just an optical illusion.
Yeah,
that we're getting something
it
there.
might be at the moment
Or,
at least.
or maybe it's just the cold
We are
beginning
doing
to get to me.
90 seconds is way too
I am beginning to hallucinate that I'm seeing hydrogen alpha. Okay. Yeah, HEQ is awesome. Yeah, Adam. Yeah, absolutely agree. And to get, yes, I think both the Skywatchers, the HEQ6 as well. We've put some outrageously heavy pieces of telescope on the HEQ6 we've got as well, so that performs well. But it's a much more difficult mount to actually move around the place. The HEQ5 is just a really nice combination, and with the 4-inch refractor we've got here, is absolutely more than enough.
Yes, that's for sure.
Is the binning on, says Darren? Yeah, at the moment the binning is on 2, and the reason I've got it, I was on 2, and we could try turning this off at some point, is I'm not sure. Well, yeah, if we have too much binning, effectively what we'll get is square stars, and these are beginning to look a little bit on the square side.
Yes. For visual, it ends up not being that much of a problem if it's for post
Okay,
processing.
let's just try. Let's stop this. I'm sorry about this. Anybody who's enjoying seeing these develop, but let's drop binning back down to 1. We'll just reset the stack, and so the hope is, if we put binning down to 1, that we might start to bring a little bit more detail, a bit more resolution.
Yep.
Well, certainly what we will do is have a look at what the star shapes look like at binning of 1, and we can have a look at that. But it's a nice image, and what you do get with the horizon that's different to the infinity is about a 4 times bigger sensor. I think it's about 4 times bigger, isn't it?
Close.
So if this was using the infinity camera, we would struggle to get both those on.
It would be hard.
Yeah.
Not impossible, but at the limit.
Yeah. Okay, so but this time we've found a number of really quite nice and interesting objects that are fitting onto this chip really quite well. Do we know anything about M81 and 82? Are they interacting, or is it an optical illusion? Not illusion. Are they an optical pair, or are they gravitationally bound? I mean, I know this has an ARP number. Which one is this? The Cigars.
You know a lot more about galaxies than I do.
Which one? No, this is 82, isn't it? The spiral's 82?
No, 81.
It's
That's
81.
81,
Oh, sorry, 82. 82, okay. 82 has an ARP number because it's a peculiar galaxy, or this is in the catalogue of peculiar galaxies. But yes, so somebody's going to tell me whether or not they're... you've set the original colour balance...
it's auto-adjust.
Yeah, it's auto-adjust. If so, uncheck will help. Basically what happened was we did the auto balance manually a while back, and that automatically took itself off. Where have we gone? So to me the black looks about, the background does look about right at the moment.
It does seem quite nice.
We can adjust it by making it, if we did have some light pollution that was coming in mainly in the red channel, we could then start to drop some of the red out to kind of flatten the background. And then when we do that, the color balance type changes to manual, but what we can then just do is to change it back to auto adjust,
and that sorts itself.
And it is as Chris Golden intended.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the binning is down to 1. Yeah, so what we're going to do when the binning goes back down to 1 is have a look at the star shapes again. So
yes,
at this point, if we were doing, the traditional astrophotography, that's the sort of star that we'd like to see, because that responds to processing a lot better than the more square and blocky stars.
Yes, and the colors are quite nice, as you can see, the orange, the bluish star next to it, and the galaxy has excellent color.
Yeah, and we're getting all the resolution. One thing that we may want to start to consider building into this software is some sort of sharpen feature.
Yes.
Because I think it's a bit of a challenge, because obviously that's quite processor intensive again, and we've already spent a lot of time. Chris has spent an awful lot of time. Hey, I've just gone and messed that up, haven't I?
Yeah.
Auto adjust. Let's take this back down to there, and then we grab all this, just to see how much of those spiral arms.
Yeah, you can see the dust lanes over there, near closer to the core.
Yeah.
And in the spiral arm.
This is one of those things where the screen we're on is quite angle sensitive, so it depends.
It is.
So what's getting transmitted may not really reflect what we're seeing here. But certainly, yeah, it's this is the sort of thing that, if you're showing friends and relations some interesting objects in the sky.
Yes, everybody can relate that to a galaxy. Actually, this type of objects, like M81, it requires a significant sized telescope to actually display the spiral arms in any decent glory. and over here with a 4-inch refractor and a few, well, 9 actually, 30-second exposures, you can easily see the spiral arms, you can see the dust lanes, and I mean, it's quite nice, quite beautiful. People like to see these things, and not everybody actually have 20 up Dobbs, 20-inch up Dobbs available to be able to see such a thing.
Pretty much, isn't it? Yeah, and so if you were looking to see this visually, you would need a significant telescope, and it's that medium range where traditionally you would have been doing some deep sky astrophotography with a guider, and it's a bit of a game changer. Okay, so we've got some more comments coming in from Wikipedia. Gravitational interactions. Thank you, Stephen, has come up with Wikipedia. What would we do without it? Gravitational interaction. M81 82 agencies have been stripped the hydrogen away from all 3 galaxies, forming gaseous film stage destruction around the globe. That's so. Yes, the answer from Stephen in collaboration with Wikipedia is yes. There is. Interactions between these 2 galaxies, and he's also mentioning another one, so it's NGC 3077. Is that in the frame or not? Is that over there, or
might be?
I do remember taking a larger field picture of this and seeing that 3rd galaxy, but I can't now picture where it is within that frame. Okay, so let's have a look at some more comments. Don's also check on raw pixels or blend. So Don's asking some more technical questions, and I think I'm soon going to run out of my knowledge of this software. But I think we're talking about. Okay, so color. So Don is asking. Check if on raw pixels or blended pixels.
That's image quality, probably.
I do remember. I'm not.
Right.
Oh, so raw. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Image quality. No. So a long time ago when we did this, I thought it was to do with the way in which the image zoomed in and out. So blended pixels would average individual pixels to calculate. I think it depends when you start to zoom in. So now we're on blend. Again, we've got a lot of colour noise in the background here. I'm not sure we're really going to see the difference, assuming this is what the difference is. So on raw pixels, if there was 2 pixels to be spread amongst 3 pixels, it would basically just to repeat 1 pixel twice, and on blended it would average. So you got, okay, maybe I can see that, can I? Yeah, actually no, so yeah, I can. So sorry, Don. So if we zoom in, we're on raw pixels, which is the quicker way of zooming in and out. So we see this star here is pixelated, and if we zoom in to blend those pixels, it looks
totally.
a lot more natural.
Yes, yes.
But I imagine this is now going to be a bit more clunky in terms of zooming in and out, whereas raw pixels. Yeah, again on YouTube this isn't going to work because our internet connection is not of the speed which you can see us zoom in and out particularly easily.
Yes.
But it's, yeah, the software is a bit more responsive on raw pixel mode. So I hope that's got to the bottom of that. Yeah, so Bob, yeah, smoother in blend. Yeah, Dave saying he's having a problem getting dark background. Heavy light pollution is always a challenge. It is. What's the solution to light pollution?
I mean, the solution is obviously move to a darker side.
Yes.
But when that is not possible, there are a few things that can be done. There's a few filters that will help a bit. One of the filters that I liked using is the AIDAS light pollution filter, which cuts light pollution lines, the emitting lines from low pressure and high pressure sodium and mercury, and just cuts those lines instead of cutting a good chunk of the spectrum. And obviously if you have a very heavy light pollution, that's not going to make a huge difference. But in situations where light pollution is average, it can help quite a bit.
Yeah, we have a suggestion from Bob of LPSP2.
Yeah, that's the one probably that I don't know exactly the code, but it's on. If you search AIDAS, it's a HEQ5 filter, HEQ5 brand filter. You can search it over, and you will see also the transmission lines that are published over there.
My favourite, so I don't do a lot of the light pollution filters. If I'm somewhere with light pollution, I prefer to go straight to narrowband imaging.
Yes, obviously that's the obvious choice, although the colors
yes.
will be...
I like to be obvious, yes.
The colors will be
false,
slightly
faked.
changed.
What I've just done is, I thought I'd just try this, is to increase the saturation. Now the saturation and brightness relate to the D-Bayer algorithm, and there's a couple of factors in there. So I've increased the saturation significantly here. In some ways that's not an unpleasing image.
No.
I've probably overdone it, but
I would put it slightly lower.
yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with you in any way at all, but
that's too yellow for my taste.
yes, absolutely.
That's more natural.
Yeah, it's slightly more than we had before.
More,
yeah,
and that's perfect.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of helping that we're starting to get a reasonable number of images within the stack.
Yes, exactly.
Some of the noise is starting to drop away in the background a little bit. The brightness also relates to the D-Bayer algorithm again, and it's making the background come up. Let's just get rid of that. Yeah, so basically both those things in image settings, this is the saturation brightness, unless I get told by Chris differently in a minute, is especially relates to the D-Bayer algorithm. Yeah, and again the background maybe with yeah, we've got a bit.
That's too much. Maybe.
Yeah. One thing we haven't got in terms of this, the way we can display these images, is we can do an exponential or
yes,
or what's the other?
Logarithm.
No, that's both the same thing, isn't it? Exponential or what's the opposite to an exponential? I forgot what the name, but it basically curves down or up. with the most. But what we haven't got is an S-shaped curve, which might be nice to introduce as well, because that kind of calms the background down and then basically expands the middle tones.
Yeah.
So that might be something that we might look at in the not too distant. But yeah, so this is what we've got. So this is M81. Thanks. I forget who suggested M81, 82 now. Okay, right now. I stand to be corrected here. Okay, so somebody's suggesting that brightness and saturation are not part of the debaying, they're done after stacking. That's a comment there from the software author. So I stand corrected on that one. I need to learn what our software does. So thanks, Chris. Brightness and saturation happens after the image has been stacked. Okay, what should we do next?
Somebody suggested the pinwheel.
Is a 4K display beneficial? Now this is an interesting one. You're going to need a fairly powerful PC to run it, but with the Atik Horizon, that is more than a 4K image, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So is it beneficial? Yes. I think these images look spectacular.
If you have a big screen, I mean, it doesn't. If you have a small 4K screen, is slightly.
You're going to need to get close to it.
Yes, you need to get very, very close to it. So, but if you have a big, like, imagine a TV, and you want to project all this stuff on the TV inside your house, then yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Right then. People are trying to help me out with remembering what the opposite to an exponential log stretch is. But when you go, I still not got to the bottom of my brain what I think it is. Maybe it's an exponential if it goes the other way to a log. Maybe it is. Anyway, that's my lack of knowledge. What were some of the other objects that were being suggested? The pinwheel was, but is that going to be? That's going to be too low, really. The pinwheel, isn't it? We are.
Pinwheel is in.
No, that's basically this is the other end of Ursula Major.
Yes, it's below the houses, I believe, at the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe wrong on this one, but it might be too low. And
Don's,
M51 is not possible at all as well.
Okay. Don's asking, what's the use of the fast display setting? Now, I'm not even sure where the fast display setting is, and even less am I going to tell anybody what the use of it is. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'll use fast display setting. Okay. Now I think, and again, Chris is listening, so I may get this wrong. I think this basically is a software thing, and it changes the way that the image control in software works as far as zooming in and zooming out, I believe. So again, this will take some of the effort off the processor. If I'm correct in suggesting this will take some of the effort off the processor in terms of the zooming in and zooming out, but maybe will make the image quality slightly less. I believe that's what fast display setting does. I can't really see a massive difference as I'm seeing it in front of the screen, and I suspect anybody looking at the YouTube link probably isn't going to see very much difference.
M33 could be an interesting object.
Is it up? How about M31 rather? Because
M31 is probably very low at the moment.
Is it? Do you think M33 is well placed?
M33 apparently is.
We were going to have a look at.
No, M31 actually. 31 is a possibility.
Yeah, shall we have a quick look at M31, because that's again that's the galaxy that might well suit this display. And M33, we need to spend a bit more time on M33, I think, just because the spiral arms. Okay then, so I got a feeling that the fast display reduces the number of pixels drawn, but only, sorry, I'm just reading this out, but only when zoomed out. Okay, so the fast display reduces the number of pixels displayed when zoomed out.
You need to be careful with your headlight.
Okay, right.
Because it's pointing at you.
Okay, and Chris is looking to continue. I'm just reading some text messages that Chris is sending us at the moment, and we're looking to further develop this fast display function. So again, keep downloading the later updates, and we'll see. We should see some, I'm assuming, a reduction in processing power. Now we just moved the scope again, so let's just stop that once again.
Reset the stack.
Okay, let's not reset all settings by accident. Where am I? Image stacking. Reset.
Yeah, just start it over.
Okay, so we think we're in the right place, don't we?
Let's hope so.
I do remember being here 18 months ago, and we were finding it much more difficult to find objects. So if we're going to take away one thing from this,
better alignment.
Yeah, and absolutely no. First of all, Mike, yeah, M1 crab. I think we should have a look at the crab.
Yeah.
And we can look. Actually, what we should. I'm going to change this back to bin. I'm going to stop that before we do anything else. I'm going to change it back to binning 2. But when we come to look at the crab, we'll change it back to binning 1 again.
Yes.
Because it'll be a small object.
Yes.
And we'll get a chance to see the difference. Yeah. So we'll do the crab in a bit. Yeah, M33, as Adam's saying, is a very low surface brightness. It's one of those things that when you look at it visually, is for being such a big object,
yeah,
and a M78, it's spectacularly unimpressive through a telescope visually. Well, maybe I've overstated that, but
yeah.
Okay.
You have to auto adjust.
We probably should, shouldn't we?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, we'll leave that just build up.
110 and 33. Yeah. Everybody.
Okay. Well, we've got a bit too much going on here with all the different bits of communication. Yes. So we've got M31, M32 as well, isn't it? Is that?
Yeah.
So
M30.
Is that 110 a further away? Yeah. Yeah. Again, if we do long exposure astrophotography, traditional stuff, it's quite nice to go and have a look at some of the NGC objects within M31.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll be talking to people who know more than we do very quickly, but this is the first object that was generally accepted to be outside of our own galaxy.
Yeah.
So this is the one that suddenly increased the size of our universe by many fold. Lots of fold.
Lots of fold.
Honestly, if it wasn't as cold, I would sound more intelligent.
Yeah, it's becoming quite cold now.
Yes, I need to. We shouldn't get political, but I might need to take a Donald Trump intelligence test on them. Please, I never said that. We'll edit it out.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So when's the new version of the software with color binning? So the software with color binning, I'm pretty certain it's on our website at the moment. Again, I will receive a text message pretty shortly if that's not the case. I think that is on the website at the moment. We're looking to slightly improve the maths behind it, and that should be online, I guess, in the next couple of weeks. So we're just getting some people to test a beta of that one at the moment. But yeah, I believe the color binning, if you download the current version of our Infinity software, you'll have the color binning. But remember, that only works with the Infinity software, with the Horizon camera, which is a CMOS.
Yes.
It won't work with the monochrome, with the
color Infinity.
It won't work with the actual CCD Infinity camera.
Yeah.
And in order to do it, you have to change this color bin mode to color, and the other option is normal. So that's, and by default it's normal. So you have to come down here and change it to color if you've got a color Horizon camera.
So there you go. M31 is starting to look quite decent.
Yes, people really are asking for M33.
Okay. That's
Both Adam but we will come on to M1 because I'm much more interested in M1. Sometimes I think M33 is going to be too big a ask for a 4-inch refractor looking at relatively short exposures. I'm sure I've just told you something incorrect. Every time you hear this beep, it's Chris texting me that I've got something wrong. Oh, so okay then. So it's not out yet, the software. So who was asking? Okay, so Dwayne, I was asking if the software is out. So Chris, so it's not out yet, but I can put it up tomorrow. So check the website tomorrow. I didn't know we were using something that wasn't publicly available. So
there you go.
Sorry,
you are releasing information.
Yeah, sorry for deceiving.
Public announcement.
Deceiving everybody about what we're doing, but we'll get it up. Apparently, we'll put it up on the website tomorrow. I think there's no reason why we don't put this one out, but there is some improvement with the maths going on, so there'll be another improvement in a couple of weeks' time that will again just help out with some of the dynamic range. Yeah, okay. So somebody's saying up to 33, up to 60 seconds on M33. Let's just go M33 and see.
Yeah, absolutely. M33. Let's do it.
Right then. Right then. Okay then, so we're now pointing at M33. We'll just reset that stack again, and the suggestion was to go up to 60 seconds. 60. Okay, binning 2 is going to stick with, again I think we'll need all of that.
Yep, do it.
M33 is one of those really interesting objects if for some really longer exposures and for mixing in some hydrogen alpha with it as well. I really like.
Yes, it's quite nice when we have
like
hydrogen alpha.
Yeah, and when we kind of process it in Photoshop, it's kind of like sprinkling some little sparkles on the galaxy.
Sparkles.
So yeah, M33. Do we know anything about M33? It's part of the local group.
Spiral, face on spiral.
Face on spiral. Yep.
And it's difficult to target to see visually in basically any telescope, I think.
If we were in a different position in the galaxy, then it would be a lot easier to see it, because if we could see it edge on, I'm sure it would be a very bright galaxy indeed.
Yep.
But we don't, and it's not.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is an image.
There you go.
Okay, so we're going to have to wait for a few of these to build up, or we're just going to be wasting our time a little bit on it.
Yes, it's a slow surface, so we have
to
wait.
This is gonna basically, if we wait long enough, this would take out pretty much the whole of this image, I think, because it's a big object.
It is.
That's a good. Is it bigger than M31?
No.
Okay, there you go. That's the answer.
No, M31 is 3 degrees long, give or take.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is way smaller.
Okay, so
what we saw of M31 is just part of it. They're all, I mean, I don't know what's the field of view at the moment over here. I didn't calculate that, but
we should have done. But yeah,
it's not insignificant. It's quite large, but it's still M31 doesn't fit. M31 is a good object when you have with this type of telescope. If you have 11 megapixel sensor, so full frame, it will fit nicely.
Adam's coming up with all of the interesting stuff that I wish I knew.
Okay.
So it's actually the third largest of the local group. It's possibly in orbit around M31, I would suggest.
In orbit? Ah, that's interesting. Didn't know that.
That's an interesting one, because I mean we are on the way through the middle of M31, aren't we?
Yeah.
So
okay.
So yeah, maybe if we hang around, we'll have one massive giant elliptical in the very distant future. And and he's saying it's not likely to have a black hole due to the lack of the central bulge. That's interesting. What's the measure object that you can actually see a jet on it? Is that M74?
The jet is M8. Hold on. Yes, it's a.
Again, I don't think this isn't the sort of thing to look at with a 4-inch refractor and video astronomy, but
No, I believe
but there is
that
one of the
object is quite
Messiers
small.
with a very big black hole, and you can actually start to image the jet from it.
It's. I don't think we would be able to actually.
I'm not gonna
do that.
What we're going to do is just see this build up a bit. I think this kind of helps. Kind of there's a difference. It's almost kind of just helps to identify the difference between the monochrome cameras and the color cameras for this kind of video astronomy.
Yeah.
The color cameras respond really well to some of the brighter objects.
Yes.
And the monochrome are less visually stunning, but they do seem to work better when the objects start to get a bit faint. And so if I was going to chase around...
No filtering.
Yeah, if I was going to start to chase around some of the fainter galaxies, then I'd probably prefer to be doing it with a CCD and allowing myself to bin and...
Yes.
Yeah, maybe even put it on an SCT or something if we wanted to look at some smaller NGC galaxies, and then that's good. M78 is the Messier object that has the
78. Okay.
the massive black hole and the jet coming out of it. That's years ago. I took a camera and just
78, no 87.
87. Dyslexia, you know, it's brought on by the cold.
Exactly, 87.
Yeah, it's Adam. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, it is a faint object, but yeah, it is a case that we can see it. And we can see where it is.
Yeah.
We're not.
If we left it on for maybe half an hour, we now are at 4 frames.
Yeah.
So 4 minutes. If we'd left it like this for half an hour, it would start to become quite the spiral arms that we are started to see below it.
Yeah.
They would start to become a little bit brighter. And,
we did do this with. Actually, yes, you can start to see a bit more as we zoom in. Actually,
you see the hydrogen alpha regions starting to appear right there.
We did this with the Hyperstar C11 and the original Infinity camera a couple of years ago, and that responded really quite well, really quite quickly, and it was just a much more aperture and a much faster scope.
Yes, different. Yes, completely.
But yeah, so this is a really portable setup we've got just set up in front of us. So it's an HEQ5 and a 4-inch refractor. It's the sort of thing that you can pick up in one go, and we will do, I'm pretty certain, because in another half hour's time it will be ready to go inside and warm up, and we're not going to hang around packing up. so it's all good there. Okay.
So there's a bit of trailing in the image because we are not auto-guiding. I mean, it's one of the things, and 1 minute is really pushing it.
I think so, yeah.
And probably the polar alignment is not the best anyway.
Yeah, it was done, yeah, we haven't drift aligned or anything, we've just sat it down and found Polaris with the poloscope. So yeah, we have got some. You can identify some of the hydrogen alpha star forming regions. If we knew what we were doing, we could name those NGC wise.
Yes,
but we don't.
That's the brightest one right there.
Yeah. Okay then. So looking. Okay, sorry, it wasn't clear when we downloaded. Yes. Dave was talking about the software. Do check. So I'm hoping it's not online at the moment, the new software. We're hoping to get it online tomorrow. I'm sure what we can do is we can post a message on the front of our website, the news section, when we put the new one up, just so people can see where it is. If Chris is listening, if Joe's listening as well, if maybe we can do that just to let people know when it's there. If it's not there tomorrow, I'm sure it will be in the next couple of days. We're testing it anyway, aren't we?
Yes, live testing.
Yeah. Okay then, so what I was quite interested in seeing was M1. It's something we talked about a while back. We don't really know how well M1's going to go. It's a small object. Rory thinks it's going to be bright enough, so I'm just going to stop that now. We'll reset the stack once again. what I'm going to do is set the binning back down to 1, and I'm going to drop the exposure maybe down just down 20 seconds, because we've got the binning down at 1. We don't want to lose it all in poor tracking, so we'll try and see some of the resolution. M1 is the Crab Nebula with the pulsar in the middle of it. You can do some really interesting imaging with M1, especially if you get it tuned in with the pulsar. You know all the stuff, don't you? So
Yes.
you can, if you get the phasing right, you can either make the middle star disappear or appear.
Yes, yes, yes. It's quite
Is
nice.
it 50 times a second in it?
I believe so.
Yeah, so but it'd be interesting, something like the Horizon. Let's just get it taking pictures. Something with the Horizon with a really low read noise, you can take short exposures. Yeah, it'd be nice to know if we could sync that up. Yeah, that'd be interesting. It's interesting to try that. Okay, so let's see this. Okay, we're not auto ranged. Wow.
There
Okay,
you
well,
go.
okay, so both good and bad news there, I think. So I'm not seeing any structure in M1 whatsoever, but we'll
Well,
give
it's
it a
a
little.
4-inch, so
Yeah, so let's just give an idea. This is the full field of view here. So we're looking at what is a relatively small object. But what we can do is, again, this is the real benefit of having this 16 megapixel camera here.
you can
And
zoom in.
I think we do have to, yeah, I know Chris has put a hell of a lot of work into this, into just making the whole thing fluid and easy to use, because the amount of computational stuff going on here to identify all the hot pixels, remove them, to align the two images, to stack them on top of each other, while allowing us to freely zoom in and zoom out of the image and move it all around. It's made to be so you don't think about all the complicated stuff going on underneath it. But that's not to say there isn't complicated stuff going on underneath it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the cooler settings at the moment. It's got the warm up button, and I'm quite tempted to press it, see if it helps me. Okay, we've got some more comments in it. Yeah. Thanks ever so much, Dave. Really grateful for your comments. Look over this again. Whoa, Joanne is going to put Horizon on a 30-inch f3.3 and
30. Wow.
f3.3 30-inch. That's going to be awesome, Ryan. I hope that you get in touch if you get any images whatsoever. We'd love to see them on our Facebook page.
Yes.
We were talking about
do a live video with it. Why not?
Yeah, so people suggesting us come over to blended pixels here because we are looking in. So maybe that just improves the image a little bit there.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need to give this a little bit of time to see if we do see some of the structures start to appear within M1 or not.
It's not going to be an easy one with a 4-inch. I mean, you can see the nebula there, but the structure with 4 inches is just pushing it a bit.
Yeah, and it's one of those things because we've got some noise in the color channel, because we have really bumped the saturation up a lot from where we are standard. So if we take that back down again to where it would normally be, oh goodness me. So this is
starting to see something, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of, in some ways that's a more natural and
yes, it seems
a more livable image. Yeah, I mean, those ready filaments are basically all hydrogen alpha. So yeah, the camera, we haven't got a hydrogen alpha filter on, so that's just putting out some really interesting elements in there. So I think if we were narrowband imaging and we got ourselves a nitrogen filter, we can get a nitrogen bands in there.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Dwayne. And the software is absolutely a game changer, and I think it's Chris Golden has a lot of credit to take for this, and has changed astrophotography in a small way.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so Roland, yes, so yeah, what object we now got M1 on the screen. Yeah, if you remember, this is, I'm in the wrong part of the screen. M1 is this really quite small object in the field of view. And we're both, when we were looking at this, both Ray and myself was quite interested in seeing what's it going to look like. And to be honest, because we've got this ability to zoom in,
Yes.
yeah, it gives you a lot of flexibility with these sort of objects you can look at. I mean, a lot of my thing is the Alp galaxies, and a lot of the Alp galaxies are not dissimilar size to M1. You're very welcome, Roland. Just think, what we have about another 10 minutes before I think we allow people to go off and do whatever they were doing before they were doing this.
Let's just try to
let's throw it out just quickly before we select an object. Is there anything that anybody else would like to see? And maybe, because we've had a few successes, it doesn't matter how bad it is, how unlikely to image it we are. So if somebody says something, we'll just slew the telescope over there for the last 10 minutes. And as we've got a delay on to YouTube, we'll just give it a minute or two for the internet to work its magic. Oh, somebody just suggested early on M45.
Oh, we did. Yes, we could do that.
I might have just, because we haven't seen any comments back on we might be about to do this and upset somebody, but apologies if we are. Should we just go and take M45? Yep. And this is all about dynamic range, M45. So we've got some really bright stars and some really faint nebula, and it's all reflection nebula. It's all kind of a bluey colour. So we'll see. We'll certainly see the stars. And CCD Freak came up with M97, which is an object I really quite like, the Owl Nebula, but we're going to go across first and see M45.
Yeah, go ahead. It's there.
Okay, sorry, yes, I've got to go. So just go up to 2 again. So this is all about dynamic range. So I'm going to change this down to low gain, so we've got the most dynamic range on the camera. Let's just start doing it. 20 seconds. Vince Bygrave, our support staff and support staff, he's been with the company longer than I have, actually, as is actually true. But Vince is one of the images that Vince had done recently, and it does benefit quite a lot of exposure to see the nebula around the star cluster. Yeah. So we're going to have to give this a whirl, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, when you look at this visually, it's so easy to convince yourself that you're seeing some of the nebula when you're just seeing some of the haze or around the stars. Would we say that this is some of the brighter elements of it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, seems to be. Yes, it is, almost.
We can...
Yeah, here you go. You're starting to see the nebulosity on the left hand side.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need more frames.
Yeah, this is one of those objects that it is going to be a challenge to see too much of it in terms of nebulosity. And again, as you push this, you lose more and more of the star colours. Okay, just to kind of get an idea, it'll look more of a pretty object if we didn't push it as far.
Yeah.
And we've got the camera in this high dynamic range mode, so we can see a bit more detail. We've got some blue stars and some red stars, whereas if we put this into the high gain, low dynamic range mode, we'd be more likely just to see see white stars and a fairly noisy background. So I think what we should do probably is we'll call it a day pretty shortly. I've certainly enjoyed this, and I hope other people have enjoyed watching. What we can do is we can put it over to the Owl M97 and just leave this on it for another 10 minutes while we grab a cup of coffee, and then we'll close up later on. Yeah, you're actually saying you are seeing a considerable amount of that bright nebula now, aren't you?
Yeah.
You got to know where to look for it. We've got that stuff around there.
There's this little thing over here, right?
Yep.
I believe this is Merope. I may be wrong. I don't know the name of the stars, but one of them has a little comma. I may be wrong identifying that one, but one of them do have a little comma.
And then we've got this very these lines of nebula. That's it's very much a feature of. Has the nebula got a name? Is it just M45? Has the bright nebula got a separate name to M45?
That's a good question.
Who knows? Okay, so thanks so much, Roland. There's lots. Maybe we've got to start to. We'll try and do a few more of these. Oh, okay. Thanks. Yes. Okay, so we do have another name for it. So I see 349.
It's Merope, yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. There we go. There's always somebody more intelligent, and they're usually online when I'm
with access to Wikipedia.
No. Okay, so I think what we should do is let's whiz over, find the Owl, which was M97, and we'll just get this stacking, and we'll assume it's quite a small object, the Owl, but we'll probably need to go binning one by one on this one. Yep. To be honest, I don't even know where M97 is. Is it Cassiopeia? The Owl?
You asked so difficult questions. M97. It's closer to. No, M97 is closer to the Big Dipper.
Is it?
Cassiopeia, between Cassiopeia and.
Hi Dave, much appreciated. I know the last time we did one of these videos, it was probably 2 or 3 hours of floundering around, completely lost in the sky.
Yeah.
This has gone a bit better, and what we'll probably do is edit some highlights of this. So at some point we'll cut some of the drivel out and leave a copy of this on YouTube.
Can go on.
Okay, so let's just see where we are. We're going to reset the stack. Ursula Major's when 97 is a car. Of course it is.
Yes.
Yes.
This
is another one, a great example of why I've come to Lisbon. Next time we should do all this from England, where Ursula Major is nearly overhead at this point.
Could do a little bit more of the south.
He wants to see the south. Right then, okay, this is going to be a challenge and a half, isn't it?
It's a very small object.
Okay, I think what we should. Is that a galaxy with it over there?
Yeah, it's a bonus.
I think what we'll do here is we'll bid you all good evening. We're going to go in and get a cup of coffee, but I'll just leave this running, and we'll probably leave it for another 10 minutes, quarter of an hour. I won't mess around with it at all, so we'll just set it to whatever it's going to do range wise. And we'll see, you might see the owl start to peek out. I assume it's that thing there, so if we just zoom in a bit on it.
It is for sure. It's bluish with a reddish edge. It's a very small object for such a short focal length.
Shall we, this is looking like it's going to be a struggle, shall I just go and put it into binning? This is our highest sensitivity stuff we can do, so we'll just leave it running at 60 seconds. Reset the stack back. Being T2. If something comes of it, oh actually we've now got to hang around for 60 seconds to reset the black levels. Is it possible to use additive stacking or just for live viewing? Yeah, no, Paul, we are revisiting some of the maths that goes on underneath this software. The idea is that we pick the best software algorithms and disguise, you know, because the whole thing about this software is it's easy to use and you don't have to become too technical to get the best out of it. So the idea is that we may make some changes to the algorithms underneath, such that, you know, the key is to make the most use of the dynamic range that we've got available to us, and whether or not that's adding the numbers or averaging the numbers, it doesn't make too much difference in terms of maths, as long as we don't then, you know, clip numbers either side. Okay, I'm just going to leave it like that, and what we might, I'm just going to change it like that. What we might see is the Owl Nebula start to appear. Remember, this is a colour camera and we've got a 4-inch scope and we're not guiding or tracking or anything.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to leave this on. Yes, as you are very well doing in my do talk amongst yourselves. I'd like to thank you all very much, and actually thank you really for all the support that we received on the internet and the different forums over the last year or two since we've introduced the Infinity software. That really is much appreciated, and it helps everybody to come up with the new innovations. There's been a lot of new software versions of the Infinity software, and pretty much all of it has been driven by comments on the different forums and in our support email with people wanting to see new features. So thank you all very much for that indeed.
Thank you. Have fun. We'll leave it on for a while.
Yep.
While we try to warm up, because I don't feel my feet anymore.
Yes.
And
but it has been a short 2 hours actually.
Yes, it passed quite fast.
Let's go. Thanks ever so much.
Cheers.
See you later.
Cheers,
Bye.
Bye.